Hello and welcome to episode 172 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Dragoon1701. With me are the Galaxy's Most Wanted, the crew of the Roundtable, DuncanIdaho and Greendragoon.
Dang it!
Well said.
I think Dragoon wins this time. I didn't have anything.
Didn't have anything.
Oh yeah,
I
well,
didn't
I've got
have
the
anything.
death sentence on 12 systems.
Well, I got a speeding fine near Aldebaran. And that's
I
my
didn't-
actual bug.
You notice I didn't say why you were most wanted.
I was trying to think of something good, and it's just like, well, let's see. I can go for indecent exposure on Beta Z. Assault with a...
There is no indecent exposure on Beta Z.
I know, right? They have naked weddings for crying out loud.
I mean, that's kind of like, that's what I got. And also, yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. The extra voice you're hearing, or voices, are our guests tonight. So please welcome from the Legion of Myth, Heathendog and Garthon.
Yay! Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the show. Obviously, we've been kind of plugging you guys off and on for quite a while now because we're very impressed and have a lot of fun with your Foundry playthroughs. But why don't you, for our audience here, tell us a little bit about the Legion of Myth?
I guess that's me. All right.
Go for it.
The Legion of Myth is an organization that focuses around more mature gaming style. We focus not just on Star Trek Online, but several other games. We have live streams every single day. We have members all over the world, and we're just a little community trying to get along, keep each other together in this crazy little thing called life.
Wow, that was pretty
so what
good.
all different games do you guys do?
Oh, geez, we got lots of games. Let's see. We've run live streams and playthroughs for, Darkest Dungeon, Bastion, Star Trek Online, obviously. Garthon is doing Final Fantasy XIV right now.
Very slowly.
We have World of Tanks, Mech Warrior Online.
Yeah, we do have the
what else?
world's greatest female Japanese tanker in World
We
of
do.
Tanks.
You should
is
see her get angry.
vicious.
It's awesome.
She's really good.
I'm just
too.
happy when I score a hit in that game.
Oh, she's got it down. Armor angles, ranges. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
she's brutal.
And you should see her rage. 4 foot nothing becomes 8 foot something when she gets angry.
I'm not allowed to team up with her anymore. I played for a while, but it was like, Garthon, you're too slow. You suck. And so I'm not allowed to play anymore. I've had my
I say that
privileges
game is a
revoked.
lot of fun. Absolutely.
But yeah, I've been going through World of Tanks. We also do a lot with Mech Warrior Online. Much to the half pleasure and half chagrin of Max Leo, who
Oh, yeah.
one of the
Oh, yeah.
founders of Legion of Myth. He
Yes.
has a love-hate relationship with that game. He loves to hate it.
Yes. He loves BattleTech, but he hates pretty much every single iteration of it as a video game.
Yet he keeps playing.
Yet he keeps playing, and I watch because I like to see him rage. He will rage at this thing every now and again. It's really funny to watch. But anyway, yeah, our live stream covers games, covers RPGs, comics, anime.
Yep, the weekly live stream every Saturday after your show.
Yes.
We cover a lot of different subjects. Every week I do Garthon's comic poll covering 3 comic books that came out that week. And Heathendog has just rotating segments with anime on the stream where he reviews a couple anime series or movies. And also currently a role-playing game review right now going through Call of Cthulhu.
Yes, Mountains of Madness.
But
Also,
also,
you
have been plugging your guys' missions, especially because it's a nice tight group of community where you can say, hey, you know another author? Oh, yeah, check out this guy's stuff. But as I've said previously before, I've been a fan of the Foundry Roundtable ever since I'd stumbled upon it looking for Star Trek Online podcasts about a year and a half ago. And it's just really been really interesting listening to you guys. And when DuncanIdaho came aboard, it's just been really fun listening to it. And I'm actually pretty psyched to be here.
I say there aren't a ton of Stowe podcasts anymore. I mean, there's been quite a few throughout history. Priority One's still going. Tribbles and Ecstasy, I believe, is still going.
Yep.
Yeah. G&T show, although they've kind of especially branched out to be a little bit more generalized these days.
I think they occasionally do some Stowe stuff. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think-
if something comes up, they'll talk about it.
I think they've always been kind of more focused on the books.
Yeah.
And Priority 1 has branched out from just being Star Trek Online as well, but they still do a really good focus on the overall Star Trek Online game.
Yeah, they do. Like, if you want to find out what's going on right now, they do a really great overview.
Yep.
Yeah.
So between the Foundry Roundtable and Priority 1, both which I listen to, I get a really good overview of the game. I'm still bad at it, but I get a good overview and know why I'm bad.
Because obviously we're still quite a niche show, although we do kind of talk about the game as a whole. Because we always think, whatever affects the whole game affects the Foundry too. So
yeah, and we do a few playthroughs too, especially when there's downtime and we don't have any Foundry.
We don't have anything else to talk about.
We just got this great big vacuous space, and then it's like, okay, we can either give into Cthulhu level madness or we can try to play something. Actually playing the game. It's quite an alien concept sometimes.
And sometimes we just do both with the the madness and playing something.
Although I do also want to say that I've really become a fan of Legion of Myth as well. The live streams I've really liked, especially getting back into comics too. I was into that as a kid, just trying to be as much into it as I could back in those days. And it's been great sort of getting back immersed into that.
Yes,
especially
and Garthon,
now that you're old enough to actually buy
really endorses Secret Empire.
Yes,
100%.
That's been hilarious and awesome. And also just getting back into anime too, because that's something that, again, it's just these different forms of creative storytelling, which can give a lot to Foundry authors and just thinking about how all these different mediums work. And Legion of Myth really does do a really good job of presenting that in all different forms between gaming, comics, anime, and RPGs too. And also,
I'm blushing. You can't see it.
And I've also been hooked by Darkest Dungeon and Final Fantasy.
Darkest Dungeon is awful. I hate it. And I love it. I hate it. And I love it.
Gripping. It's so gripping. Like every single battle, you're just like, okay, stun. Yeah, we got the stun. So, it's just great to sort of branch out and just see how creative storytelling works throughout all these different medium, and especially how to think about bringing that to the Foundry too. So, it's been fun. And yeah, for Final Fantasy 14 though, we need more bears.
I agree. Those giant bears were scary though,
especially going after that one guy.
Oh yeah. But no, it's the Stormblood expansion has been really good for Final Fantasy 14. I just wish I had more time to play it. But I've been, fruit flying around to all these different games. So, yeah.
Coming from Lotro and Skyrim, I say no more bears.
It's funny though when the bears are going after someone else though. When they're going after you, it's terrifying. But when you see them going after someone else, it's comedy.
In Lotro, they actually just opened up Mordor.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. I have chosen not to get it just yet because the pre-order price was ridiculous.
Well, I actually have a lifetime membership, and
I was lucky.
I guess, but yeah, well,
I should have got that back in the day.
Yeah, it was $200 when it first came out. I'm like, I'm gonna do this, and then of course I never play it because I have lifetime membership. So, but I like jump in like once or twice, a month, and like, and then they give you credits every month for doing that. Much with Star Trek Online. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, I buy the new expansion, and then I'm like, woohoo! I have all the perks, and then I do nothing with it and feel kind of bad.
I jump in every now and then to play the content that was out when I started playing, which is always my favorite, and then I usually lose interest after I'm done with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat. I love like the Shire stuff and all that, but once it starts getting like deep into the books, I start kind of like shrugging. But they've done a lot of good change. But who cares about that game? I like Star Trek Online.
Yeah, let's talk Star Trek Online. How did you guys kind of come to the conclusion of or the idea for playing Foundry missions on your stream?
Well, I did a whole series. I think about 60 episodes. I think maybe I don't know. I'm not sure how much, but about taking a character from level 1 to level 60, playing through all the content, and not spending a dime. To show everyone how to do that, how to get your Mark 12 gear, and get everything all without spending any real money. And after that, I talked with Garthon. I was like, "Oh, what are we gonna do about this now?" And he's like, "Well, there's a whole bunch of the Foundry missions, right?" I said, "Yeah, I played some of that, so we can do that. We can do it together." I'm like, "You're kidding." I'm like, "No, I'm not kidding." I'm like, "All right, cool, we'll do that."
I had actually thought about starting a series of playing through Foundry missions for about a year. It's been a long time, but it wasn't until Heathendog started going through into the Bucks Fat McCool stuff, I started thinking that we could actually do this And I think it works a lot better with me and him going together than just me alone or him alone, because we can play off each other.
Right.
We mock each other's faults, and like
Yes.
good friends do. And
He's not
we
my
have a lot
friend.
of fun.
And in
Well,
the case
check
of
it.
my mission, you get separated, and then one of you breaks it.
Yes, I remember
and
that.
he happens to be the cameraman.
Yes, I remember that. I was able to get out of the courtyard and into the 100 or so enemies. They lit me up like you wouldn't believe. Oh my goodness.
Because, of course, you were not supposed to fight them.
Well, then you shouldn't have put him there.
That was so beautiful. I love that.
It was pretty.
What was the name of that mission?
It was called Under Gray Skies. It was for the
There you go, yep.
anthology.
That was a great mission too.
Oh, it's-
I actually love that whole setup when you see all the bags that then like the airstrike takes him out. That was beautiful.
Yes,
Not that
yes,
Heathendog saw it.
No, but with the whole base itself, getting more and more destroyed throughout the entire mission, where tents that were there would now be just craters of smoking craters, stuff like that. I really liked that. That was really great.
Yeah, and
I'm a
even
big
the
watcher of war movies, and I was thinking, through the whole thing is like, this is like the Bastogne episodes of Band of Brothers.
pip, pip.
That sort of siege.
I had to go grab another character because I got something special in mind here.
But also, well, that Under Gray Skies was great because, like a lot of the Foundry missions, but I noticed that we spent a very brief amount of time with the NPCs running around. But when, like, a few of them got gravely injured or were dying off, and I was actually like, "Oh my God, no! But he was cool," or I really liked her. Just that brief interaction, it was actually really touching, which was, and all of you guys have done a great job with that. Being able to bring these NPCs if there's brief interactions. And
Yes, and as a matter of fact, there was one NPC, I forget her name. She's a female
she was an engineer.
crewman, engineer. Yes, who actually understood the job of a fleet admiral.
Oh, yes.
It was great.
I thought people would like that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was beautiful. Like every single mission is like, Fleet Admiral, go pick up this heavy box. Fleet Admiral, go and do this menial task. And she's like, Fleet Admirals don't do that. You're supposed to do this. I'm like, thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, no,
Wow.
I think
That's
he
great.
the dogs.
I threw that in there because
Oh.
I'm playing the rest of the game like everybody else, and it's like you have all of these fleet admirals running around doing all this menial labor, like picking up things and scanning things, and it's like I bet you that players will like that idea that even if it's just thrown in there as like a little joke almost.
Yep.
No, you were
I bet
absolutely
people
correct.
like it.
You were absolutely correct. I loved it. I loved
I don't
it.
know.
Count the pips. Count the pips. You got nothing on that.
No, I
I'm not
think
picking up
that
box.
I think that Heathendog's favorite Foundry moment, though, was at the beginning of the mission when Jagira says, "That's starboard. That's on the right, sir." And he's like, "I know what right is."
I hate. Oh my God.
He was raging forever on that. And then at the
I-
end, of the mission, like, "Don't you mean starboard?" She's like,
It's true. It's true. She got condescending quick. I wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
smack her in the face like a lot. Wow. I mean, yeah. Every guy that you've ever been with has been killed. Fine. No,
"Oh,
that is not an excuse to get snippy with the fleet admiral. Not an excuse.
But because the Foundries have so many great moments where they're like that, and that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do these reviews, so we could pull in other people, say, look at these awesome missions that are out there. They're not always highlighted. They're not always the easiest thing to find. And there's just some of the key content to me that makes Star Trek Online sticky, that makes you want to bring people in. Say, look at this. You can create this too. Maybe not as good, but give it a shot. And so we really love highlighting missions that draw you in, that really bring that feeling. You get attached to these characters. And even we occasionally like to highlight really terrible missions. that say,
Yes, the
"Look,
terrible ones. Woo-hoo. Those are fun too. I mean, yes. Very, very good. You have your great authors and you go amazing story, whatever. Now you got really awful missions that are just like MST3K level of craziness. Just awful. Oh man, what was the one? Captain's Holiday.
Oh, yeah, that was great."
Oh, man.
That was awful. My goodness. It was.
Well, that
I'm
one
getting
got
sick
reported, I'm
just
pretty
thinking
sure,
of it.
for violating
Yes.
ELA.
Someone here reported it.
Yeah, someone had to go back through it because it's just like, yeah, it's one thing to do like a single character, but every single character they made was from TNG or the original series.
Well,
every custom NPC.
Well, consider he misspelled all of their names. Maybe they were supposed to be different characters. Like that was Weasley, not Wesley.
Yes. Oh God.
And
there
was,
and now it's a Harry Potter crossover.
There was Dr. Beaverly.
Oh boy.
And I'm pretty sure it was a kid making this mission, and that's kind of like when you see a lot of these just absolutely crazy missions with lots of technical problems. I think it's generally kids doing it, and kids don't really know how to put things together in a complete way. Yeah, so, like you're on the Enterprise D, you take a turbolift down to medical, and you're on the TOS ship.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah. Yeah, you're like, what happened? Why am I suddenly on Kirk's Enterprise and not the Picard Enterprise? What happened? And they're like, oh, okay, just roll with it. All right.
Yeah,
maybe it's possible kind of maybe they built it by maps only and never actually bothered to play test it.
That's also the thing too, is that kids, since they don't think about functionality, you'll go through things that's like, how did they not play test this? And the answer is pretty much yes, because they don't really. It's more about like them having fun with the process of creation. So you'll just get really random missions, and calling it a 1-star, I don't think it's it's not a slight on the author. It's just the objective quality of the mission, and it's fun to see, especially Legion Myth going through these. Really fun to see them, and it's really great perspective for authors who are working on building higher quality missions, because you kind of see the negative by which you're building missions. So you can see things that are going wrong to help you think about ways things can go right, which you might not be sort of thinking about if you're always playing good quality missions, because you're sort of like, you just gloss over those details. It's just like you
see what not to do.
Yes, and you just sort of accept things for the way they are, rather than taking a more critical look at it.
Yeah, it's like that classic idea of learning good design by studying bad design.
Yeah, you got to learn how to sort of like, you need to understand the bad examples to understand good example. I certainly know that from science, where it's like, okay, we need to talk about how to make a graph. Here are some examples of really bad graphs, so you can kind of see why we do things the way we do things. So, like, I just love these, the 1-star playthroughs, just because, it's the comedy of the MS-3K aspect. But you can also see how they're not working, too. Yes. So it's
Enterprise-y.
The Enterprise.
Oh, yes, the Enterprise. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for everyone listening now, I'm very sorry that we are all doing what seemingly inside jokes, but if you actually watch the Legion of Myth team up for the Star Trek Foundry, you will see all of these 1-star missions, and where Enterprise has a capital P like throughout the entire the entire mission. The author puts a capital P in there, and then Captain's Holiday, where I don't know, I suppose it was an 8-year-old having fun. I don't know. But and then there's Joe's Bar, which is just the Bill the Canadian Klingon makes an appearance. It's just awesome.
Yeah, so it's just all these ones where it's you sort of look through Legion Myth. You see the missions that you might recognize. Also take a look at the other ones too, because it's all great fun.
Speaking of things that we like and don't like about Foundry missions, I gotta tell you guys something I like that you're not going to. You're not going to like this. As authors who follow the rules, you're not going to like this. But I don't mind a Foundry author using established characters. I know it's against STO policy. I know that. But as a player, I don't mind, as long as they look right and they act like their character would act. I like it.
Ironically, we can do them. As long as they don't look right.
See, that's weird. That is weird. I don't like that. I like it when they look right and they act correctly and everything like that. As a player, I'm never going to report that, because I like to see Beverly, not Beaverly, Beverly Crusher, actually, looking and acting like Beverly Crusher out of an episode. I like that. And I know that you guys as Foundry authors do not, because you cannot approve of that. And I get it, but as a player, as a Foundry player, I don't care.
Well, we're all fans of the shows, of course, and we'd love to use those characters, absolutely. It'd be so much fun to put Geordi in your mission or something, like that. But
there are the two unusual exceptions, because Cryptic has given us the NPCs. Worf and Sela. Kind of.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're actually in as like stock NPCs. Although
Yeah.
Sela's not
So that-
labeled as Sela, and Worf,
Yeah.
we got back from before he looked like Worf.
Yeah, so it's one of those weird things where it's always a difficult area, and definitely the way PAX approached it in the 100th is the way to do it. But you got to, like, for us, we got to be really careful because this sort of gets into licensing. So it's just that,
And the other exception, though, is people who are in really heavy makeup, so you really can't depict their likeness.
Yeah. So it's basically that it's one of those tricky areas. The other thing too is that you can also, for say a holographic character, create a different body, and then you can have a continuation of the character, but without using the original actor. So yeah, it's one of those things where there is that difference of perspective between the authors, where we got to sort of stick to a set of rules. But it's sort of like you can't really satisfy the player the way they want to be satisfied, because it's the Foundry. So you kind of have to just sort of dig back and say, like, oh, Cryptic, come on, make with more stories about characters. Get more cameos in.
I am kind of curious, though. How do you feel about Stowe-specific canon characters?
Ooh.
Because, I mean, there's nothing stopping us from using those, even if they don't have stock
Admiral
NPCs.
Quinn,
Yeah.
and
Admiral Quinn.
Kurland.
Captain Sean.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised Captain
Personally,
Sean doesn't get used more often.
I know, right? I mean,
He's captain of the Enterprise.
I know he should be used a whole lot, but he is not. I mean,
And-
like almost never. I've never really seen him in a Foundry mission.
And he's got a fully fleshed out bridge crew, too,
Yeah, and we've got
whose names I
costume
can't
for
even
Sean.
remember.
Yeah,
Because they're
We've
not
seen 'em-
used enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
Yeah.
like, there was that mission in Delta Rising, which is still my favorite mission in the game. It's Capture the Flag, where basically the entire mission is about the crew of the Lisette, the Romulan flagship. It's like, where is that mission for the Federation?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great
and
mission,
that's-
too.
I was really expecting that too with the Enterprise D. It's like, hey, we're going through the Lisette and Delta Rising, and then next season we might get a little bit more with the Enterprise, and now, but it kind of shifted focus to Lucari. So we could do Kramarke now.
We could.
The eyes we don't have, but everything else is in the Foundry. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, for me, thinking about doing like Captain Sean, it's always one of the hard things of like, how many bridge crews do I want to sort of inject into the story? And when you put Sean in a Foundry mission, it's sort of like, for me, my impulse is to kind of play him off the player. So it then becomes a crew of like a story of like the Enterprise and the playership doing something. And it's a little bit harder for me to construct those types of missions.
Right. And also, I think there's the problem with using something like that in that, why would I use their crew when I could use a crew I created and I can more closely control the story and their background, and you could do more with them, really?
Yeah, because I still don't have a good handle of the dynamics of the Enterprise crew. I mean, there's a lot of story blogs that kind of flesh out some of those side characters in the Star Trek Online universe. So cryptic writers seem to have a really good handle on that type of thing. It's like, I don't feel as confident, so I'm just going to do Starfleet Security. And then occasionally bring in
to a
Admiral
certain
Quinn.
extent, it's more fun to make up your own characters. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, that's part of the whole thing, of the Foundry. And I mean, you if you follow me on Twitter, you know that it's part of the fun in game as well, because I have like 60 some odd Stowe characters,
Yeah.
playable characters.
Because I mean, there's probably in the Foundry right now a couple hundred missions where you are rescuing Kirk and Picard.
Yeah.
Or Kirk or Picard.
Yeah.
And those aren't nearly as entertaining as ones where you have a more unique setup with people you don't know. Because why does Kirk need rescued? He's been dead a long time. Well, you go back in the past. You know, Kirk was not a very good captain if every other week he was being rescued from people in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think those are mostly the kid missions where the kids are thinking about, I don't know, maybe it plays to the kid ego of like rescuing Kirk / Picard, because that was that was Captain's Holiday, and that's all it was. And it was just like, oh, okay. And
Well, not always kids either. There's just the hardcore Trek fan who
Yeah, the
gets into the
fanboys.
game and sees the Foundry and dips into it. So I'm
Could be
gonna
fangirls too.
I'm going to make a mission about Kirk.
Well, that's kind of where the term the original Mary Sue came from, if everyone knows the origin of that.
yeah,
Yes. from
So
fan
yeah,
fiction.
it's sort of that, like, it's the first impulse, and definitely something that authors, in trying to make more elaborate story missions, should avoid at all costs.
And,
Right.
and, you know, because the Foundry is essentially a form of fan fiction, and you get the same sort of hang-ups and tropes that a lot of people use. You know, how many people out there have written a fan fiction mission about, or story about Kirk, or about Spock, or about Picard? You know, versus the
Or
ones
about
who make up
Kirk
their own
with
Kirk.
Spock.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, slash fictions out there, baby.
Slash fiction.
I was just wondering. I wonder how many missions are out there where you actually romance Kirk or Picard.
Oh God! Like,
I don't want to know that.
I'm just glad the search UI isn't that specific.
Yes.
I've only actually come across a couple Foundry missions that include a really specific romance,
Oh, I'm looking right now.
Stop it. Don't do that.
and it's not Kirk and Picard. It's the original characters, thankfully.
Oh, wait. Speaking of things that I hate about Foundry missions, there you go.
Okay.
This is a good one. Now, this is for everyone who's thinking about making a Foundry mission. These are the don'ts. All right. Okay. Now, everyone knows about the loading time black hole. All right. It's prevalent in Star Trek Online. It's more prevalent in Foundry missions because you have to wait for STO to create a particular instance for you. Now, if you can get away from those black holes as much as possible, do that. For example, there have been many missions where I've given 5 stars just because of this, where you have a map transition that you go to warp and you don't actually leave the instance. You stay in the instance. You're inside a warp field. You have to move for about 10 seconds forward, and then you go to a warp endpoint, and then the map rebuilds itself and changes, which is great. You don't have to go through an actual map transition, with the black hole, and you get to continue the story without having the possible disconnect or waiting 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 120 seconds, how long it takes that time to actually change maps when you can change the map without leaving it. I love that. I hate it when you have a whole bunch of map transitions in a row, or you do not do something between transitions. For example, let's say you go from the bridge to the outside in a space map. You have to go through transition. I get it. During that transition, all you do is do a couple of lines of dialogue and then you warp out. What? No, that is a waste. It is a complete waste of a map. I mean, you put a lot of work into that map that we're only going to be there for 10 seconds? What's wrong with you? Make it worth our while. You have to make us do something. At the very least, expand the plot a little bit. Make us scan something. For the most part, make us fight something. Do something. Use it and then leave. Don't just go there, a couple lines of dialogue, and then leave. It's a waste of a transition. It puts us in more black holes. We don't like it, and it didn't actually help your story in any way. Hate it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
and
especially
in
on a
general,
space-
we definitely recommend
always
to
advise
authors
that,
that you need to have enough happening on a map to justify its existence.
Yeah, and the flip side to that too is that you don't want to just start filling the map up with stuff. You got to have stuff that's relevant to the story too. So it's a great opportunity, a great way of promoting just not only making the most of your space, but also just thinking about how that space is playing into your mission. So you might have thought I only need this section. But if you're thinking about economical and also impactful use of space, you might find ways of expanding the story out so it becomes deeper, richer, and just a lot more enjoyable. So yeah, that's really great. That's really great advice.
It is. It is the easiest way I've seen to expand a map without actually doing a whole lot of work is, especially if you're on a space station, right? You have windows outside. Put some crap outside. Put some stuff outside. A ship, or a moon or a planetoid or some kind of aurora type effect out the window. That you'd be surprised how much ambiance that adds to the entire scene. It's amazing. And in the 4 and 5 star missions, I have seen that. I've seen where you look out the window and there's some stuff going on outside. Whereas the 1 and 2 and 3 star missions, it's just stars.
Yeah.
That's it.
And even on a interior map where you might have you might have those windows in by default. You can still put stuff outside. There's plenty of ship props. We got the nebulas. Planets, you have to sort of use a specific backdrop, but you can do that too. I mean, I've definitely used that for a bunch of my AEI missions where I used a very specific backdrop that had a lot going on in the background. Utopia Planitia, where you get Mars in the background. And it's very dynamic lighting, and it's just, it just spices up that scene so much more.
Exactly right. Yes. I like that.
Something that was used to great effect on the map in-game that we're standing on right now. There's, obviously the interior of the space dock, which is there for background purposes. There's the outside where you can look at Earth and ships flying by, and the hangar. It's building out the places where the player doesn't actually get to, but they can see, is a way to make the map feel a lot bigger.
You can do that on ground maps too. Or if you got a window, you got a building interior, you can put stuff outside, buildings, trees, stuff like that. Or use a exterior map where there is by default some stuff going around in the background.
Right.
You also put ships down there too.
It's something that kind of you build by getting to know the assets that you have to work with. So I know for new authors, it's probably a lot harder for them because they don't know which backdrops have something other than stars in them, and a lot of the backdrops have like nothing in them.
Yeah. But even still, authors could definitely experiment, and even if they don't know everything, they can still find some things which they can use to effect. And that's for authors, like instead of just trying to get a complete comprehensive view, just if you get an idea, if you're looking through the asset list and get an idea for how something might be used, just go with it and just build out from there. That's how I got started with Gemini. It's just it was just building out a city. I was just taking a look at the city objects, and I just kept going out from there and just seeing how things could be used. So some of my detail objects aren't definitely aren't as elaborate as in later missions, but I still get a good overall feel for it because I used what I had in the way that I felt was best at the time. So I wasn't shy about not putting something there, because between the two, if you put something there that makes sense, then that just adds a lot, even if there are other options out there too.
I know.
And when you said detail, it actually reminded me of something that is a real pet peeve of mine in missions. So anyone who's listening to this and is like, I can build my own Foundry mission. Yes, you can. But there's something you need to do. You need to play through it, especially for this part. There are I don't know what they're called and by Foundry creators, but there's the little green circles on your minimap that you have to go to activate a sequence of events.
Objective waypoints.
The objective waypoints, exactly right. Now, you have to make these big enough to be useful.
Reach markers are an art in of themselves.
Yes, you have to make them large enough to where you can actually find them, right? and activate, and be very careful of the y-axis. The X, Y, and Z apparent. Oh my God, people who don't play through their own missions. I see this a whole lot. You see it a lot in the 1- and 2-star missions where the Z-axis is just wrong. I mean, it's like, oh no, you have to go next to the space station. Okay, except the X and Y coordinate is next to space station, but the Z coordinate made it like 10,000 kilometers high or 10,000 kilometers low, and you have trouble finding it. Don't do that. Make it big enough and put it in the right place to where the person can actually get to it in a decent amount of time, rather than searching around for it for about 10 minutes. Ugh.
Yeah. And on top of that, too, you can also put down objects, especially in space maps, which help indicate where that objective marker is. So I always place beacon ships, something you can visually navigate to. Because, the author might know what they mean, or know what the deal is for a particular setup, but that doesn't mean anyone else playing the mission will. So you always want to just think as much as possible, how is someone else going to see this? Are they ever going to figure out the logic I used to create this map?
Now, there are certain times when, the little objective ring in your minimap is not something we can control. I think, interact objects?
For sort of like interact objects and contact NPCs in combat, all that's preset. It's when we have a reached location marker that we can vary the size of that. Yes. But the same thing, too, is that you can, if you sort of need a little bit more resolution with that to be able to say, hey, go to this generalized location, and then there's going to be more specific objective. You can use a go to location objective, have that set to be very big, And then your objective on that portion is relatively small. So if you have to navigate over a large distance, it might be easier to find that space. And then you can get into finer scale and finer detail with subsequent objectives.
And there's other clues that you can do to tell people where to go, like the blinking beacons.
Yeah, and then on ground maps, you also have like glowing particles too that you can use as well. Although it'd be nice, like Cryptic started using these sort of like flashing downward arrows, and I would love to get those in the Foundry because those are very direct. Like, hey, go here. Okay.
There is a
they actually
glowing
have
pillar of light that I like to
pathway.
use.
Yeah. Glowing pillar of light is like what I like. It's sort of like it's the next step up. Like, although glowing pillar of light, it's sort of immediate, and it can be used to a lot of good effect because it's also got some lighting 2.0 associated with that. But I just like the flashing downward arrow because there's no ambiguity to it.
No, it is pretty precise. Like, no, do this,
do
dummy.
something here.
Yeah. And you could especially use it too to also indicate like, hey, use this thing versus this thing. And you could do that too with the glowing pillar of light, but it just doesn't look quite as direct.
But you're absolutely right about playing through your own mission, and then the next step after that is get someone else to play through it while you're watching. Like I had, anytime somebody live plays my missions or does a video of my missions, I always find something that needs to be fixed. And there was several things in Under Gray Skies when you guys played it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first off being at the end where you ran right around the objective, which is what I think happened because there was supposed to be an invisible wall that would prevent you from going and attacking those guys, and it either wasn't there or wasn't there early enough or something like that. So I've been fiddling with it to try and make sure, because I want the mission to play, or people to play the mission the way it's meant to be played, and people don't always do that.
Yeah, especially me. I love breaking stuff, and it was actually kind of cool. I mean, I think the way I broke that mission was there was a small wall all the way around the encampment, and the actual invisible wall was at the arch where you would normally go in and out. I think I jumped the small wall at some point to get outside. I think that's what I actually did. And then I finally got outside. I faced half dozen harbingers and about 50 herald shock troopers, whatever. It was bad. I mean, I got toasted. It was awful. It was just not good.
My very first mission, I was watching somebody play it, and the idea is that you show up and you place a ring of sensors around a nebula, and it reveals there's an enemy fleet in there, a really big one. And I was like, okay, so yeah, and that ends the mission. And then somebody was playing it, and I was in a chat room with them, and their next step was, okay, I'm going to go fight these guys. I'm like, what, why would you want to do? That's not how you're supposed to do that.
And I've encountered that with Trident as well, where there's a section where you have to sort of evac through a space map. And I tell the player explicitly, you do not have to fight these guys. You can just go up and over, or cloak through them, or just take a more elaborate path. But I still have people like complaining, especially if they have a low damage build of, oh, this was, this difficult, the combat section was so hard. Like, you can put a lot of safety barriers in the way, but you always find players who kind of have their idea for how they want to approach a situation, and it takes a lot of pushing to get them out of that. So you almost have to work around that tendency of players to kind of go things in a little gung-ho way, to try to steer them around to a slightly more productive position.
Right. You actually have that built into some of your missions where you have an easy and hard mode. Like you click on the shields up, be ready. We're gonna evade easy, and then red alert. Load 4-ton torpedoes hard. Like you have that built into the dialogue option, so it's a lot easier for the person to get into the mindset. Like, okay, I'm going to evade this fight because I clicked easy. I clicked it, so that's what I'm going to do. So that's a really, really good way to change the play style of the Foundry player by hanging a lantern on it in the dialogue options. Like, say, no, if you want easy, do this. If you want hard, well then do this. So that's a really good dynamic that you've done. I like that a whole lot.
Yeah, although I actually haven't done that in a few missions. Just I don't know why. Like I'm just trying to think about that. It's like I haven't done that in a little while. Yeah. So I got to get back to that one. What I've done a little bit more recently is to actually sort of do a little bit, kind of have similar things, but a little bit more subtle. So when a player respawns, it automatically spawns in more contact like more allies, or giving them buttons to say, "Hey, you can summon help this way." Although I do really like the dialogue option because it's right there. You're right. It's hanging that lantern on it, and players don't mistake it. And they don't sort of overlook it.
Right.
Well, here's a question. When you're setting up something like that, like you have branching dialogue paths that might lead to combat or might lead to a diplomatic solution around it, do you prefer as an author to annotate, hey, this mission, this will lead to combat, this will lead to diplomacy, or just kind of leave that to the player to find out?
I like annotating it. Just to it sort of it might take some people out of it, but it does help to be explicit about options like that, since some players will assume that, well, if we take the diplomatic route, it'll just circle back to combat anyway. So it also helps highlight the fact that, hey, there are just dynamic mission elements here, because some players might not expect that.
I do like to try and spell it out as well. I did one where the idea was, okay, you get to this point and your choice is to either activate this console or not activate this console. One path will lead to combat, the other one will not. And I tried to have your bridge officers essentially spell it out for you as much as I could beforehand. So, I mean, it's hard to know everybody's level of reading comprehension when they're going to play your mission. So I lean more towards being direct and making sure that everybody should know what is going to go on as much as I can.
I mean, you are, of course, players going to complain about my immersion. But it does help clear things up, like what the intention of the author is.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
What about when you see? I've actually seen some missions where the authors, I think, overdo it. When they put a dialogue option, they put Federation, Romulan, Klingon, Vulcan. All these different, it's like 5 different options. Like, I don't need that many. Just because I'm Vulcan, it's like logical.
Like 6 different ways to say yes.
Yeah. You can definitely overdo it. Like I like to do those options, but I always try to minimize how much I'm doing that.
Yeah,
when
3
it's just
max, really.
Yeah, although there was one. Okay, there was one in Faded Horizon. We didn't go through this optional dialogue, but I think I made it up to 11.
What?
It was great. I mean, the joke was just like, it was just how many things your character could have been up to at a certain point. So it was Jagira saying like, oh, I haven't been around. I was working on this one thing, which happened to be your costume. And then your option is, oh, so that's why you missed Barbecue Tuesday. Oh, that's why you missed. Oh, God damn it. We should have gone through that one because one of the options was, oh, so that's why you missed my Beta Z wedding. Oh, is that why you missed Morn? And it was just like, I just kept going with all those. So you can actually use that to great effect. Another one I've done in Inversion, I think this was Inversion, where like I gave a list of hobbies the player could have been doing. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like
that's something you only want to do once in a blue moon.
Yes, once in a blue moon.
If you do it once, it's funny. If you do it too many times, it's annoying.
The player's just going to click on the first option. They're not going to bother reading throughout the rest of it. So it's kind of like one of those, it's a good rule. You can break it for effect. Kind of like a lot of things in the Foundry. You can break things for effect, but don't let that go overboard. You want to stick to making things work.
Well,
I always like sort of the Mass Effect rule of 3, where you have sort of the, good guy response, the bad guy response, and the wise ass response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it can kind of go to 2 to be, more involved emotionally or less involved emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or just a sterner approach or a more sympathetic approach.
Yeah.
Well, how often have you guys been dinged on reviews for missions where someone basically says, my character would never say that?
A few times.
I bet you every author has one of those in their stack somewhere.
One person who got after me for specific grammar and said that they would never have said all right as one word.
Well, I don't know how you say all right as two words as opposed to one word.
Yeah.
Is it inflected differently? I don't know how that works out, but
it's just the way I spelled it, and they lectured me on it, even though it's conventional English practice, and that's how I learned how to use the word.
Sure.
Just to do it as one. It's conventional English. I mean, they may have had a language arts teacher in the past that said, no, it's grammatically incorrect. It's like, that's not how language works, so it's by convention. But yeah, I've gotten authors who also, rank is a big sticking issue that the players may or may not respond to, because we've got the option to refer to their actual in-game rank. So that's where you see Fleet Admiral so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little tag that goes and fetches your in-game rank.
Right.
Or you can just type out in dialogue, Captain. Some players really like being called Captain because they're the captain of the starship. They want to be the captain, and that's what they've imagined their character is. So if you start calling them Admiral, then they think it's inappropriate. But then you also have players who think it's a little weird to always be called Captain because they don't necessarily subscribe to the same convention that when you're sort of captain, you're in charge of a starship, that you're always called Captain.
While you're on the ship, yes. While you're on the ship in your command, you are captain.
Yeah.
No matter of your actual rank.
Yeah.
Actually, that is the cornerstone of STO, because you begin the game as a lieutenant who is captain, because you are given command of a ship. So while you're on your ship, you are referred to as captain. It makes perfect sense because you're in command and this is your ship. Yeah. Even though you're exactly, yes, you're lieutenant commander, but you're not actually the captain rank, but you are the captain by definition. You are the leader you are the commander of the ship.
Yeah, and all the other factions work out the same way. So that's something we can totally do in the Foundry, but not all authors keep to it as much. I tend to do it with bridge officer dialogue, that they'll be referring to sir or captain.
Right.
But then it's like, if it's a sort of a third party character, like someone who's a completely different faction, then I tend to go, I stick to the rank, because they're not necessarily focused on the chain of command. They're focused on who you are as a character. Say the villain's is not necessarily going to say captain. He's going to just say, okay, he's the fleet admiral. I'm going to call him a fleet admiral. Although I do want to I'm starting to think now that it might be funny to flip that around and have a scene where the player lectures a villain on the captain principle. It's like, you will address me as captain.
It's also one of those things that, like a lot of things in Star Trek, it was not applied consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kirk, when he was an admiral, was referred to as admiral when commanding the Enterprise. And, that was only referenced in DS9 once, that tradition of calling a commanding officer captain if they're commanding a ship. And it's something that, is kind of down to the author's choice. And some players are going to like one approach and some players are going to like the other approach.
Right. Yeah, and actually, in the original series, they did that. They stayed more to the naval convention. For example, I forget the name of the episode, but there was a visiting captain who came aboard the Enterprise, and he was the same rank as Kirk, obviously, but for old naval tradition, he is bumped up to the rank of Commodore while he's on the ship as a I don't know,
because there only can be one captain.
Exactly, there could only be one captain. So rather than demote him in rank, because you wouldn't do that to a fellow captain, you would make him a Commodore while he's on board the ship. And I forget the name. I wish I remember the name of that episode.
Oh, that's it's the Doomsday Machine.
Yes. That
was with Commodore Decker.
Yes. Thank you. God, that was itching my brain. Yes, thank you. But they in the original series they stuck a lot more to naval tradition with the whole ranking system and what you call people and stuff, which I really liked.
Although I don't know if you'd like Commodore Jigoro.
Well, who wouldn't? Everybody likes Jigoro, right?
No. Jigoro has real problems. Okay.
I like Jigoro, but she does have emotional issues.
She does have emotional issues.
She has lots of emotional issues. Number one, she is the poison ivy of STO. She, whomever she is with, will die or be irreparably damaged as a result of being with her.
That was the Black Dahlia.
Yes,
Oh.
there you go. There you go. Yes,
That's
she
not
is
good because I have
exactly
Jagira
that
as a
one.
bridge officer now on one of my ships.
And she goes from guy to guy like nobody's business. I mean, she one guy dies or falls or gets like, I don't know, like her head shot off or his head shot off or whatever. She will before the episode is over, she will be latched on to another guy. She has real codependent issues, like serious issues with her personality. Yeah, it's upsetting. And lately she's been snarky, just a little snarky to the fleet admiral.
I will say that might be true, but considering Jagoro's background, it actually makes a lot of sense, these actions, psychologically speaking.
It's the codependency. I do want to eventually address that because that goes back to Gemini and the setup for that.
Yep.
Because she was always raised with another dude. She was raised with Thale. So she's basically that's kind of like one of the parallels for Gemini is that there's two Jagoros, but then it's both Jagoros are kind of a part of this dual, like this almost dual personality. So after Gemini, she's kind of split off. And I took a long time developing that thing with Graves. It wasn't really a thing it wasn't a thing in Polarity. But then it started being it had to be something in Entropy because I just needed that emotional moment at the end. And then Continuity, I just okay, I can't write for Graves anymore, so he gets blown up.
Yeah.
But then it's just like next season on, it's like, well, I got the Shame dude. I've got the Conclave Control. I want to give him an arc. Oh, well, give it having a developing thing with Jagoro, that kind of worked. Although I didn't have the mission space to really give that a good amount of space. There almost has to be just sort of like implied time between SSF4 and then 2.2 and 2.1 for that to really have full impact.
Yeah, to me also, Jagoro was someone who was bred and raised for a leadership position, and then she kind of had it yanked away.
Yeah.
So her whole worldview was crushed, and she had to rebuild herself. And that has kind of messed with her own sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see going into it.
That's something I've tried to go for a little bit with her being a former administrator, and that's kind of why she got bumped. For me, it's why it was so easy for me to think about her becoming a captain. Although I do want to flip that around with how the rest of season 3 goes. So get Jagoro on a slightly different, a little bit more independent path, and maybe have her an episode about her codependency.
That could be interesting.
It could. Now, what I want to get to is something completely different. Is the Star Trek giveaway that we're doing right now. The Legion of Myth and Foundry Roundtable are having a Star Trek Online giveaway contest, and to win, you have to have 3 code words, and you have to go to YouTube with the Legion of Myth direct message or email at legionofmyth@gmail.com. All of the rules should be a link in the Twitch chat. I think Garthon can do that. But there's 10 prizes, and you can win. But you have to know the code word for this episode. But we're going to let the Foundry members pick the code word. Any word you want. Any word. It doesn't matter. Just not Jagoro.
I was going to do codependency.
Codependency is a perfect one. But no.
No. That's
too hard to spell.
There you go.
Oh. Enterprise?
With a capital P?
Maybe. Unless Greendragoon or Dragoon have any ideas.
I like either of those.
Black hole.
Black hole. Oh, black hole works.
Yeah, I like that. I like black
That's
hole.
a good one.
Black hole. Okay, everyone listening, the code word is black hole. You will get the third and final code word in our stream later today at the Legion of Myth at Twitch. You can watch it then. If you are watching this on YouTube, which you may be, then you'll have to play it. You have to play it a little later than everybody else, and you may win, you may not. I don't know. But with all 3 code words, you can win one of our great prizes. And like I said, there are 10 prizes. The least of which is a master key.
Yes.
That's right. Yes, and that's around, give or take, 5 million energy credits on the exchange, if you wish to turn it in. If you don't wish to open up a lockbox with it, which I wouldn't, because that lockbox is unfair. That never gives me anything good. It always gives me junk.
I would argue with that, but I've never got anything good out of lockbox either.
There you go. See?
Yeah. So
But
the
I'll keep trying.
although I did just get the Kelvin Constitution class out of Infinity Box.
Get
Ooh,
out.
that's nice.
Really?
Yep, I did. And I
Wow.
was just going for Lobby. So that's kind of how you do it. So it's just you just sort of plug at it, and maybe once in a blue moon you get something out of it, but you're sort of plugging away on the idea that, hey, I just want a bit of randomized loot and eventual progression up to something big. So the one thing I do want to also emphasize on contest is that it's first come, first serve. So if you get all 3 code words right away, first one in, boom, you get the top prize.
Yes,
But you can
top
still
prize is these top prizes are no joke. I mean, prizes 1 through 5, you get not only a master key, but you also get a tier 5 ship.
Yeah.
For you. And then it gets better. Prize number 3, you get not only a master key and a tier 5 ship, but you also get a cross-faction console. And for the second prize, you not only get the master key, the tier 5 ship, you get 2 cross-faction consoles and a Mark 14 Epic kit module, which is great. And prize number 1, you get all of that and your very own Legion of Myth mug. That's right, Legion of Myth mug. Now you don't need to you don't need to get the mug if you don't want to. If you don't want to give out your address to some bums on the internet like we are, then hey, you don't need it. That's fine. That's fine. You'll get all your in-game stuff. That's good. But that Legion of Myth mug, it will help you in social situations.
Yes.
It will, yes, it will. I mean, wearing the T-shirt outside. I mean, I have my own shirt, for crying out loud. And I pull so many girls just from having my own shirt. It's crazy. Having a mug or a tote bag, get out.
Tote bag.
Oh yes, tote bag. You can also have a Legion of Myth tote bag. It's freaking crazy. Oh man, all of the granola cruncher ladies love the tote bags. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and again, the 3 places you can find this, find the code words. First one is on the team up that we did.
Yes.
On
Legion of Myth team up number 83 with Duncan, Idaho.
And I can go ahead and throw a link over to that in the chat as well. So if players are watching this after the fact, you can take a look. I think we'll probably put it in show notes. But you can also, all else fails, just search YouTube, Legion of Myth, Duncan, Idaho, and you should be able to find it. We play through my latest mission in version. I offer a little bit of commentary and
Faded Horizon.
Faded Horizon, yeah.
Yep.
What did I say?
You said inversion for some reason. I don't know.
Oh, Faded Horizon. I was thinking Faded Horizon. I thought he said Faded Horizon. Okay, so we played Faded Horizon and went through it, team up. This is a full long episode, so
yes, it's about an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, it's the whole episode in one go. Usually we keep it around 30 minutes, just because YouTube likes 30 minute.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah, but this one for the sake of the contest, it was the whole mission in one go, hour 40 and change. Hour 42, something like that. But the code word is completely visible on screen, edited in afterward, so you won't miss it.
Giant glowing letters.
It's true.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy. I think I got the link now, so I'm just going to go ahead, paste that in. There we go.
There you go.
Yay. And it's a lot of fun, and it's me going through a mission. So Foundry Roundtable, if you haven't seen what I've done so far, it might be a good introduction to Duncan, Idaho. And also just just some of the custom ground builds that I've done. Space builds too, and characters. And
yes, and Duncan, Idaho's secret to building crap in Foundry missions is you put stuff down, put something on top of it, put something on top of it again until it looks good, and you're done. That's
exactly. Although on that note, I've got a little bit of a giveaway too relating to that mission. So I'm just going to open a little bit of a trade thing here. Let's go ahead. I got 2 things. Let's go ahead and start that up with Dupay.
What?
I've got things to give away too.
Oh,
no.
Okay, so Garthon, orange or green?
Are we talking colors or something? Well, in STO, orange is usually best, but I'll say green.
Okay. There we go.
Woohoo! Well, thank you, sir.
You guys can deploy these in just a minute. But I'm giving you guys new new science officers of a particular variety.
Particular variety? Oh, here it comes. Okay, there it is. Ground non-combat pet canyon
Drickle.
Drickle. Pup. I got a pup.
So
Hey.
That is fantastic.
inside joke from the stream we just did. So you guys have science officers now.
Ah, that's so sweet. Science. None can defeat me now.
Nope. That's how it rolls.
That's
So-
fantastic.
If you guys want to, if anyone in the audience wants to know what we're talking about right now, just go ahead and watch that mission. At the point at which I kind of broke Garthon.
Oh, I liked it.
Look at my little rat. I got a little rat. So it's
See, mine's more sciencey, so it goes with me better.
It is, yeah. I got it. It actually looks like a mixture of an aardvark and a rat. Oh, he just does backflips too. Nice. Sweet. Those backflips. Oh, beg.
Oh, I do have a question for you guys.
Good rat. Oh,
Go for it.
Is the Captain Proton an ongoing concern, or is that just something you were playing around with for a bit?
Oh, we got
we
were
were playing around with it, and we've done some things like come up with ideas for a mission. Obviously, it's going to be something difficult to undertake, but we'd love to do it someday.
Right now
I think
we're focused.
Mostly been sidelined by the 26th century anthology.
Yeah.
Because that's been interesting to hear about the 26th century anthology. Yeah, from what I understand, Earth has gone missing, and we're in a separate galaxy.
That's going to be the idea. We're going to make an intro mission in which Earth goes missing due to an accident during a big natural disaster, and we have to go to another galaxy to find it. So you're going to load up a big fleet along with the Enterprise J, and you're going to head off to a new galaxy, and then at that point, we're going to open it up for any authors who want to make missions set in that other galaxy in the 26th century.
Now, are you leaving Earth's disappearance to mystery so other authors can posit ideas of what happened?
That's something we were talking about last time, and it's kind of a difficult thing because you might get authors who want to just go off on some other tangent in this other galaxy, or you might get authors who want to actually do the finding Earth part. And I think at least for the initial missions, we'd like to encourage people not to find Earth in their mission. So that way you don't get 5 different missions where everybody finds Earth in a different way. Unless you want to go a multiple universe thing.
Fair enough.
But that might be introducing too many story elements there.
Yeah.
So,
but the idea is, adventures in another galaxy, for sure.
So we'd actually kind of thrown around the idea of letting it go for a while and then taking suggestions for what really happened to Earth and then kind of incorporating them into one final mission.
Authors could always go the Battlestar Galactica route where they find Earth and it isn't what they think it was.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
No, never do that. Never do that. No, I hated that. I hated that about Battlestar Galactica. Oh man,
I wouldn't say it was the best episodes of the show.
Well, we
funny
found
about
Earth. It's a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Like, oh, great, thanks, I appreciate it.
Well, it's funny is if you actually
we can say spoilers because it's like a 15-year-old show now.
Yeah.
So.
If you listen to the creators and the writers of Battlestar Galactica talk about that, it's like it starts with the Cylons had a plan. The writers will say they never had a plan. There wasn't one. They just kind of made it up as they went along.
Because
the
writers
whole
didn't have a plan.
yeah, the finding Earth at the end. The writers were, oh crud, I guess they're finding Earth. What do we do? How about this? It was never planned. It just kind of happened.
It's and very few shows have a big plan.
Yes, the only one that comes to mind is Babylon 5. I mean,
yes.
The writer Straczynski. There you go.
Straczynski. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. He had a plan. He had a beginning, a middle, and an end. He wrote it all out before the show, and then he just filled in the extra bits as he was actually writing each episode. So he had a plan throughout the entire series, how it was going to begin, how it was going to be in the middle, how it was going to be the end. I have not run across a show like that before or since, where it was all planned out.
Yeah, but I mean that's a lot of faith though for a TV show to make a 5-year plan.
Oh yeah.
It's a good thing Firefly didn't do that.
Ouch.
Didn't they?
Didn't
they?
Yeah. They had the first season plan, and everything that was left of the first season plan is in the movie.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes,
I actually really enjoyed that series.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, to quote
One of the best of all time.
one of the best of all time. I'm not going to go there, but it's good.
I'm not
gonna,
gonna.
okay,
you
go
don't
there.
have to.
But I quoting someone from the series, having a full feature length film really takes the sting out of your TV show getting canceled. And I suppose it's true. Yeah, I guess it would.
Not really. I watched that show in first
certainly
run,
helped
man.
with-
It is-
Me too.
It is better than not having a feature-length
That is
movie
true.
to wrap up
That
your
is
show.
true. That is true.
It certainly makes a much better final episode.
That's true. It's better than Enterprise's final episode.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. That was awful. Chicken and the egg, chicken and the egg. Shut up.
Okay, so bringing this around to Foundry, Duncan, you are in the midst of a long series of missions, all about kind of one subject. How much did you plan any of that out ahead of time?
Let's see. When I first started Starfleet Security, I really only approached Gemini, and then everything else was sort of like, what do I want to do for my next project? So that's how the next 4 missions came out. With season 2, I had a little bit more of a plan. And it really came down to a series of topics and then a resolving episode. So I had the idea for starting off with the Conclave, doing a Nimbus episode, a Ferengi episode, and then finishing that off with another IFAR episode. The actual subject of that changed wildly, though, as I started working through missions and really kind of changing what I wanted to do with them. For season 3, there's there's kind of like more open. I'm giving myself a little bit more open space, but I've also got an idea for what to do for the finale. So I've got beginning and end, more or less. And now it's just, okay, how do I have fun with the middle? Because I just sort of wanted to leave it a little bit more open so I'm not having to work through a plan. Because I'm having to do that now for my multi-author collaborative series with Starfleet Theta and Paul Sutherland, where we're really working to a strict plan. And I've also got to finish up back part 2, which I'm kind of constrained by. So I want to give myself a little bit more flexibility in just being able to make missions I want to make at any given moment. So I do have beginning and end, and that's how I like to work. Of just know where I'm going and then find the most interesting way of working my way there. So that's a little more sort of ad hoc, but then just make sure that I'm going somewhere interesting. So it does have a payoff.
Of course, it's a little bit different when you're doing, things that are very specifically a 2-parter or a 3-parter or even, 6-parter like the Purity series or Photonomy, because, we definitely plan that sort of stuff out ahead of time, rather than an ongoing series.
Yeah. Ongoing series is relatively easy, especially when you do kind of try to keep it to like a syndicated TNG format. And that's actually kind of I'm trying to come up with a hybrid style where season 3 is probably going to be where I finish off with Starfleet Security, only because I've got 3 missions that I need to make to finish off the arc. But then I'm going to just start making a lot of standalone missions, which I'll plug into season 3 as SSF3-N, where you can just pick up and play those once you finish off either the first, second, or third mission, depending on how I always sort of want to write the ongoing series. So there's ways of hybridizing that, where if you want to make a series, you can make missions that sort of follow the episodic format, but then team those up with standalones. And that's kind of how I want to sort of envision the rest of my Foundry career. It's just kind of working on those types of even just one-off projects that hybridize some Starfleet Security elements, but also AEI.
Okay, so let's ask the other Foundry author in the room, Dragoon. When you were making part 1, did you have any idea what part 2 and 3 might be?
Okay, so funny story. When I was originally making part 1, it had a little bit different ending. So in my original draft, your ship goes through the wormhole, and then it's like, okay, we're going to go off to look for these ships. And then I kind of was going to try to do this effect to kind of simulate a cut, and it was going to jump ahead several days to you battling against these Eidolon, trying to get through the wormhole and then get back to the station. And then the rest of the mission, you basically beam back down to the Midas Array, and the whole account of what happened was going to be this massive debriefing. And then the separation between the parts was going to be oh, we've got to take a break, and we'll come back to this. And so that's how the parts are going to be separate. But I ended up dropping it just because it was too complicated and too confusing. But yeah, I mean, when I got to the end, towards the end of building part 1, I kind of sat down and figured, okay, I've got to figure out how this leads into the second part. And I kind of had an idea of where things were going. And so I knew I wanted to do, at that point, a 3-part structure. And so I didn't have all the details nailed down, but I kind of knew where. I knew that part 2 was mostly going to focus on retaking of the ship and getting out of the situation. And then part 3 was going to be finding your way home. And so I kind of had a couple of thoughts okay, these are the kind of things I want to tackle in them. But it wasn't oh, I've got every single little. I didn't have a massive outline for all the different beats that the second and third part were going to hit. I had some of the second part and very, very loose ideas about the third.
So no planning on your part. Shameful.
Oh, I got a plan. I'm working on part 3 right now.
Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that with Purity 6 too. I haven't seen anything on that.
Well, Purity 6 exists. We're just not allowed to access it.
We are gonna try and work on that. I was trying to go through the channels, and then we're gonna see what we can get.
Yeah, you get those weird nut jobs that claim they've seen Purity 6.
Yes, I've totally seen it.
It was the highest rated mission in the Foundry, I swear.
Sure,
no one can prove me wrong right now.
Yeah. Although seriously, if you want to, maybe just send Kayla a PM over the forums. That might be a good way. Just getting in there pretty directly.
We're working on it.
Yeah, Purity 6 is so much of a myth now. It has its own subreddit, I think, where people are oh no, I saw Purity 6 in the sky last night. It was crazy. It was dashing around. Oh no, Purity 6 stole my dog. Stuff like that. So it's got a cult following. It's
attained the same status as Half-Life 3.
or I would also say that there's what was it? It was a Sinbad genie movie. That's kind of a legend. It does have its own Reddit where it never existed, but people think they've seen the movie from vague recollections of early 90s.
Like Shazam or something like that?
That's kind of the idea, is that there was there was a couple of movies that sort of hit similar vibes.
Yeah, it was Shaquille O'Neal, I think.
It was
Shaquille O'Neal was in Shazam. The Rat and Genie movie.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So people thought there was one, though, about Sinbad, the comedian.
Yeah.
And it's basically, there are these two ideas that are so close, they basically just link to each other. And people think they've seen this, even though it never existed. So there's a subreddit proving trying to figure out what is going on. And I guess that's what we've got now for
those urban legends, Star
Purity 6 stole my girlfriend.
Based on books.
Purity 6 was covered up by the government, man.
The truth is in there.
The black helicopters came and made me unpublish it.
Purity 6 is nothing but a plot by the CIA.
What's funny is living near Langley, I actually get to see the black helicopters. So those are real, kids. And
sure they are.
We're gonna be shut down. Don't do that.
Oh, the stream just ended.
Oh no! The men in black are coming for me.
And the stream just cuts off, and we never hear from it again.
Oh, come on! Random coincidence.
I was half tempted to just stop the stream right there. That might have been going a little too far for a joke.
Maybe.
Maybe it would have been so worth it, though.
Yeah. No, stream integrity is still at green, according to the streamer.
Oh. Are you sure?
It's what's going to happen is the NSA is going to be listening to it later and think, oh yeah, we got to shut these guys down.
Or they're just listening to it. It's like, we should shut them down, but they want that, so we're just going to torture them and make this drag out.
Yes, they're not going to give in to us terrorists.
We're going to make them fill another 45 minutes of airtime.
That'll show them.
Mm-hmm.
I also playing through all these Foundry missions, actually seeing how they're built has actually kind of inspired me to try and build one myself. So I've started plotting the idea. So In about a year when I finish it, I'll let you all know.
That's on pace for building like me and Dragoon.
There you go.
I gotta say, by my experience, it takes much longer.
Oh yeah. Because I've got 14 missions out right now, and I've been at this for a couple years now.
And I was on it that time. I think I've published maybe one or two.
Yeah, I think it's Photonomy came out in that time. I think this was after ICO that I just got started, because one of my missions was basically just like published right after midnight, starting off.
I say because I think I played your first mission, and that was right before you came on the show.
Actually, there was a good few month period there between them.
Yeah, I don't know how old it was at that point.
Yeah, so when I came on the show, I just finished my. Oh God, I think it was like my 8th mission.
Of course, I had that.
Funny though, that was funny.
Career where I was building very fast.
Yeah, I was getting out a mission a month at a certain.
That was just
it wasn't taking that much up. Ago, so. Like it wasn't a good stretch, but like my last mission, it's been 6 months since since the last one I published. I've been working a lot of stuff in that time, but nothing was getting to the point of being published. I was like, okay, got to make another SSF. But it was funny.
So what have you been doing this week?
Not much.
He's on summer vacation. Come on.
Basically, I mean, I just finished Faded Horizon. I'm taking a little bit of break, focusing on real world stuff. But just kind of dabbling with characters and story ideas for 26th Century, and a little bit for SSF 3.2. Mainly just sort of like I wanted to use a map, the Sovereign class interior map that's no longer appropriate for 26th Century. I still want to use that, so I copied off that project, and I'm basically rebuilding costumes. So I've got a map that I want, but I still need to rebuild SSF costumes, so I did that.
That's all over your Twitter feed, by the way. All the new costumes and stuff.
Oh yeah, because I mean, it's one of the things that people actually respond to. So it's one that
it's the only reason I follow you.
Yeah, I mean, and
so I can steal all of your designs.
Although I do also have those ideas, like both sliders and importable character files that you can use in the main game for various characters. So that's how Dragoon has his very own Jigoro, is that there's something you can download and just upload on a alien female I'm going to put her
on like all 60 crews.
You could also just make an entire crew of Jigoro clones. It'd be a little weird. But
yeah.
That would be a little weird.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
That's right.
But anyway, though, it's just something that I do like, because sort of like where I got started in starting to think about sci-fi stories was actually just doing sketch art back in high school and college. So that's where I started thinking about building sci-fi universes, and that's kind of like what I enjoyed a lot in Stowe. And just with the Foundry, it's just I've got 50 characters, up to 50 character slots per mission, so I might as well have fun with the designs. So anyway, that's what I've been focusing on for the last week.
All right, Dragoon, what have you been working on?
I actually, after the success of getting a functioning map going, I actually went back to working on the refugee colony. So I'm starting to work towards the part where you pass into the more subterranean portions of the city, which is probably going to get that much harder.
Are you going to have enough assets for that?
I'm not worried about the detail asset limit. I am keeping a very close eye on the building asset limit. I'm hoping
because from your screenshots, I guess you definitely use a lot of buildings first. So
yeah, I haven't run out yet, but I'm hoping that once I kind of get into the more underground sections, I can start to dial down the number of buildings I use.
Well, I have done nothing.
Oh,
nothing. And I'll tell you why. It's because I bought myself an Oculus Rift.
That's why. Yeah,
it arrived on Monday. So I go through some daily stuff in Stowe, turning in Admiralty and stuff like that, which helps generate dilithium. But other than that, I've basically been setting up the virtual reality and kind of scratching the surface basically of all the stuff I can do with that. I published a video earlier in the week of me attempting to play a mission in Bridge Crew on the TOS bridge, which is very difficult.
Oh, the gumdrop buttons.
Yes.
They're unlabeled.
It does have a little thing where you can turn on labels.
Oh, that's
sort of, and they're little floating labels above each button. So I kind of had to use that. But it's a very cool game. I was joking around. It's like, okay, so, if I was some kind of cool hacker or something, I'd figure out how to fly my Stowe characters' ships from Bridge Crew. I'm not a cool hacker guy,
Yeah.
So can't do
that. That would be an ambitious project, probably involving a lot of macros.
Yes.
So you would start translating VR input into control inputs for a HUD-less STO.
And you would basically, what you could do though is build a Foundry mission that is essentially the same as a mission in Bridge Crew.
That's true.
I was also thinking that it would also be really weird if you got the Bridge Crew interface working to then transition to a ground map, which you have to do in basically all missions. We got to pilot the dude, sir.
Well, what Azurian Star suggested earlier in the week is do it through the magic of video editing. Just, film myself in both games and then edit it together.
And with the Foundry, you can sort of you can film a section in Bridge Crew and then build a Foundry mission in this to hit the same points.
Mm-hmm. So it could be a fun video project someday, sort of marrying both games together. But that definitely has it's a new fun gadget taking up all my free time. So, but I will get back to it because I do. You guys inspired me with your playthrough of Under Gray Skies to do the continuation, which I always had in my head. It started off as 2 missions, and I put it together into 1 mission. And basically, it's going to cover the reason why the Iconians and the Heralds were so interested in that outpost.
Oh, good, good.
Now, it's going to go through a circuitous route to get there, but it'll explain that.
Now, I just have to question: are you going to make this an AEI mission?
No, it's still going to be Iconian War because it's going to take place right after.
Oh, okay. So before Dagon joined Starbase Magellan.
Yes. So we're going to have to go back to time. It's going to deal with some things like PTSD because I think Dagon would really have that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that whole outpost was wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yes.
Man.
And then Karen Peters, the teenage shuttle pilot, she's going to figure into it quite a lot.
She is hardcore. I really liked
her a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She was written like, yeah, I'm like, well, how old was she? Like 13, 14?
16.
16. Yeah. Okay. She's 16 years old and she's like grizzled. Like, wow, where did you grow up? Did you grow up on the same planet as Tasha Yar? That's crazy.
And she's now totally like the Winter Soldier. She's got this artificial arm and, not quite that hardcore, but yeah.
No, yeah, she was a really interesting character. Like I said, the small moments actually make such a difference in a lot of these missions.
Yeah. And that's what I really appreciated, too, about the whole Iconian War series, is that it really gave you guys an opportunity to fill that space in when some of the cryptic missions didn't necessarily push the same angles.
It was something where I saw how they were doing things in-game, and I was thinking I would make a different choice. And so I was like, how can we utilize the Foundry to make this thing bigger than it was? And it seemed like a simple idea. It's just, encourage people to make more missions, more things going on in the Iconian War, everywhere in the galaxy, because it was a conflict that could be everywhere in the galaxy. And it was really successful. We had like 30 some odd missions.
Oh yeah. I'm still really impressed by how many authors contributed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Iconian arc was actually pretty influential. I was really surprised. It was nice to see all the support for it through the Foundry.
Yeah, and I even I did a little bit to tag along with that. This is really early in my career, and I didn't feel comfortable jumping into the anthology. But for SSF3, there are actually a lot of background elements from the Iconian War that I tried to sort of make a little bit more of a resolution. So it's as close as I've come so far in creating an ICO mission. Just because it's basically it sort of dates the mission to a very particular time in Stowe, but it sort of takes place in that aftermath, so it flushes that out a little bit. because you're sort of like going after what the Iconians left behind. There's a little bit of post-war stuff. You had one guy with PTSD, and then an optional dialogue with a couple of Nausicaans who were in the final battle on Sol. So yeah, it was just like, it was a really, really interesting angle on the Star Trek Online universe. And yeah, it just has such great Foundry potential because it was just like a big moment.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they'd hinted at Iconian stuff from like the very first missions, and then it's kind of like a big wrap up for all.
Yeah, from the launch of the game, practically.
Yep. I was there when it launched, my friends. When they flew to the academy.
I was there, youngster.
I was in that first day of open beta where nothing worked.
Yep, I was there for that. Servers kept shutting down. Couldn't click on anything. It was great. Yep. Combat was harder then, my friends.
Back in my day,
you couldn't get a whole group to go into a fleet action together.
Oh, no, you could not. Well, I also remember like just going through like the original missions with I would actually have to set all of my bridge officers into position, like, oh, you two cover this door, you two get back here, so I could set flanking positions to take down the enemies, or I just get overrun over and over again. So you really had to get on top of it. Man, it was rough. It's a better game now. I'm not.
I'll tell you one thing I missed though from back in those days was the sort of open teaming thing, where if you were doing like a patrol and someone else was doing a patrol, they would show up in your instance on your team.
Yep, and that usually worked out well. Sometimes they ended up flying in circles and like, thanks, guy, you're really helping me. But usually that worked out well.
I even saw that when I started up. We're doing some of the Romulan patrols and other STO patrols.
Say it still might work. I'm not sure if it does.
It kind of, but you really have to like find a very specific patrol. And so I think it's like the Romulan patrols might go for it, but I just don't know anymore. I just haven't done those in such a long time.
I think also, I mean, not a lot of people play patrols these days.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's easy to find your own instance.
First, I'm glad we don't have to do all of our crafting at Memory Alpha. That was a pain, man.
I did that twice and then never again.
Yep.
We have been lobbying to reintroduce Memory Alpha as a lore hub.
See, that I'd be great with. I would love if they would introduce Memory Alpha and you could actually go there and review cutscenes from all the missions.
Also, it'd be a great place, too, for their short story blogs.
Oh, absolutely.
Get those in the game.
And there's a lot you could do with that.
Also, you could approach it like we were talking about earlier, of trying to explain.
This is another one of those missions that we always talk about that's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's basically just think Darkest Dungeon, Memory Alpha, done.
Well, didn't you guys actually find the Memory Alpha map or something in the Foundry?
Oh, yeah, just recently.
It's still in there.
Primar found it. There's a circuitous way you can get to it.
Yeah, it involves the fact that we can sort of do map transitions right now while we're editing missions. So they work just fine. Like, you can go from map to map and published. But when you try to do a map transition while you're testing a mission in the Foundry editor, it just doesn't work. And that's what allows us to go to Memory Alpha, because normally it would just beam us right back out. It's like, hey, you shouldn't be here, but we can't change maps.
Yeah, the safeguard fails, and so we can actually, because there used to be Foundry doors there, and technically we still have those hookups.
Yeah, and there's some bits that are missing, and some bits that are just sort of like the wrong assets. So the big holographic planet's now a real planet, because the planet textures have been swapped out. So it's a little weird, and it just sort of highlights where it kind of was not a very... It had some interesting elements to it, but it was a pretty default-ish map. Because
it was definitely a Gen 1 map.
It would be interesting to see what they could do with it today, with the artistry that they exhibit today.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think they could do some good stuff with it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just randomly tuning in the other day, and one of the TOS episodes, I think the Lights of Zatar, happened to be on, and it was the one where they go to Memory Alpha.
I've not watched that one in a long time. I mean, do they spend a lot of time in the interior of it?
They go down after basically everybody's been killed and have a look. And it as with most TOS sets, it's generally pretty nondescript. A lot of TOS computer banks and a bunch of people, dead people around.
The kind of stuff they could do in the
desks,
60s.
tables, and whatnot.
Okay, so it's funny because, I always see people saying, oh, Star Trek's not optimistic anymore. It's not hopeful anymore. And you're talking about a room full of dead people in the original series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone was
We
killed.
had Doomsday.
Everybody else was destroyed.
Yeah, giant amoebas, Doomsday machines.
I always go back to, in like one of the very first episodes, Balanced Terror, they had the kid getting killed on his wedding day.
Oh yeah.
As a major
Well,
character
stuff,
plot
man.
point. Yeah.
Well, almost everything in the original series is a reference to the Cold War.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's very dark series. Like more, I think much more so than what came after. It's because I think TNG got a little, like, it got off to a very optimistic start. With
The
how
80s and
Gene
90s. We were happy then.
And then, well, 90s got dark with DS9, but it was kind of like it was a very sort of different style, like of quote darkness, or is more complex, more political, and just sort of less stark. That's kind of my take on it. Where it was like we had a big war and a big conflict, not a giant space cornucopia that's firing anti-protons at us. Or
everything is product of the time in which it was made.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
If you think about it,
TNG, which is like pre-Gulf War, and then you have DS9, which is post or during, essentially.
But I mean, you also got TNG that was coming on the heels of the end of the Cold War. So I mean, I bet you that's a lot of the peace with the Klingons and whatnot kind of came from.
Look at like some of the first season episodes where you had the admiral who was full of the creepy space bugs, and that was almost like a horror episode.
Oh,
And-
God.
Oh yeah, that was the end of season 1. Yeah.
yeah, and later
and you
seasons.
notice they never did that again.
Exactly. Later seasons never got anywhere near that dark.
Oh yeah, that was super dark. But I think it's also too is that TOS was, because it didn't have a lot of establishment behind it. It did sort of drift into sort of much more classic sci-fi lit stories. So you had a lot more of the sort of the big artifact, the big space monster with a particular aspect, and that was the problem they had to solve. But then once Star Trek got going, it built up much more established lore, and it could just do itself. And that's basically where TNG, DS9, and Voyager and Enterprise came in, is that they could do Star Trek continuations that built off Star Trek lore or elements of or patterns in the Star Trek universe. And they didn't necessarily bring in a lot of the classic sci-fi lit stories, which tend to be a little bit more grim, a little bit more stark. Just because that was sort of the big sort of melodrama of some sci-fi stories. Because
you also had some writers come in who wanted to go to those places. Ronald D. Moore. He's always famous for saying that he didn't think Voyager went dark enough, and went serialized enough.
Depends on the episode. I don't think
that's why.
I don't think they carried their problems enough with them.
It was.
They tended to rinse between episodes, and
That
would
is
have kept
true. I mean, Janeway murdered Tuvix, and no one ever talked about it again.
Well, the fans talk about it, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, we all bring it up like, yeah, Tuvix.
yeah, I mean, really, Voyager should have been in shambles by the end of that voyage, or at the very least,
Well, they actually
look
did
like
that
like
with the whole
multiple.
Year of Hell thing.
Yeah, so it's like if you stretch out Year of Hell over the course
Year
of
Hell
7
should have been
seasons.
essentially how the whole show was.
Yeah, it should have been. I mean, yeah, when they finally made it back to Earth, it should have been like falling pieces just falling off into space. Like, oh, we made it! Oh my
Or
god!
the hull covered in patchworks of like repairs that they've hastily done without a space.
Like
which
tarp,
is essentially
they're
the
like
end of
covered in
Battlestar
tarp some places because they ran out of metal. Like, oh,
'Cause-
that'll work.
yeah,
Spackle.
or just also incorporating other alien technology, because that's something that never I
They
kind of
mentioned
don't
it,
like.
but they never really built on it.
Yeah, I mean, Voyager looks the same throughout the entire series, so it's not like they
occasionally they throw in a little bit of dialogue about, oh, these things work better with the Borg improvements, so we'll just keep them.
Yeah, so
But you
it's
hardly
kind of
see it.
Yeah, and I think it's why I've never really gone to the Delta Quadrant. My Foundry stuff is that I don't have a good consistent sense of what's going on there in terms of the structure. There's just a lot of stuff. And I don't think Voyager ever really kind of built this consistent thing, because it was always about the journey forward, journey ahead. that you got a little bit of factionalization with the Hirogen, the Kazon, but you never really had a good sort of like pull the sense of what's going on in sort of the same way that you had for DS9 and TNG.
Well, it was
So
also
it's
impossible to take the Kazon seriously.
Yeah, that too. So there's a whole lot of like, well, we'll introduce this big faction. It's like, well, they're kind of stupid, so we're just going to create another faction ahead.
And of course, the very
you
nature
can
of
do
the show
that.
is you just fly right on by.
Yeah,
these people.
Yeah, you just keep going. Like, oh,
Yeah,
these guys
but
suck. Let's go.
Yeah, but the flip side is that there weren't a whole lot of allied powers either. So they never really formed a good, strong alliance with anyone to say like, hey, you guys, we're going to do this thing with you, form a cooperative relationship, and hey, maybe you could upgrade our ship so it goes a little bit better. They had those stories, but they always ended badly. So it always went back to the status quo.
And they always ended after one episode. Yeah.
And it always ended after one episode. So you got these little stories, but they didn't have big significance and impact. And there was a lot of individual small-scale world building, but I never got the feeling of grand, big scope. So,
all right, I'm going to turn this conversation a bit on its head and say, what if you were offered the opportunity to reboot Voyager, like completely start from the beginning and rewrite it as you wanted? What would you guys do?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy.
I'd do Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, it would be that. You know, I mean, they would get stuck in the
more serialized
in the Delta Quadrant, and they would really continue the first few episodes when they were running out of fuel. You know, they didn't have a whole lot of antimatter. The dilithium was getting low. They would not have really recovered from that. It would be just one more gut punch after another. I mean, it would be a horror show. It would be.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Star Trek could really do that dark that well.
What I think you could do is that you could sort of start off first couple of episodes, go for the gut punchy thing. But what I would do is that I would actually go through the series and change Voyager throughout the whole thing.
Exactly.
So by the end of the series, you have a starship. It's still Voyager, but the crew and their outlook is different from where they started from. Not just the sense that they're forming teamwork, but it's kind of questionable if they're technically still the Federation. It's more of that you formed an individual. It's still same principles, but
so it's almost Equinox.
Yeah, a little bit, like not that dark, but like
yeah, they're a bunch of D-bags over there.
But yeah, I mean, for Voyager, you got a little bit of the Equinox crew that jumps on. They got the Maquis crew, and then you've got Neelix. I would have done a lot more world building, build something kind of like that felt a little bit maybe more like the Gamma Quadrant, where you got these really, really big powers that Voyager kind of stumbles in the middle of. And they kind of work their way through them, and they actually form really strong cooperative alliances through that. So their ship by the end is basically a hybrid starship between Federation and then at least one other faction.
Yes, and actually, what was the episode? I forget the crap.
Are you thinking E Squared?
Enterprise. Yes, E Squared. Thank you. Where they actually
yes, I was thinking the same thing.
Yes, there you go. It looks not completely different. Like you can tell, yes, that is the NX class Enterprise, but it's got a whole bunch of new doodads, and they actually spend time saying, "Oh yeah, we got this from this race and that from that race. That's why our ship looks weird." Like, okay, yeah. I mean, Voyager would have to do that. You know, it would look completely different than when they started.
Yeah. The big thing I would change is I would promote Harry Kim.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, big time. Oh, you know, I do halfway through the series, Janeway would die.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things I thought, like,
kill the captain.
No
one gain rank. You know,
I might not do well. Oh God, yeah, that might be something, or at least someone in the top 3, and kind of write the character to be sort of to fill that out. So then you'd promote people up or promote people in from outside. So there would be a serious need of recruiting.
The Janeway gets killed off halfway through. Do it that she is killed off, but keep Kate Mulgrew on, and like Chakotay takes command, and he's like really like being beaten down under the stress, and he gets visions of Janeway.
He hallucinates her,
he hallucinates her, and so she's kind of like offering like a mental support role.
He has a holodeck Janeway he keeps going to.
No, not
That's
even
where
holodeck. Just
oh yeah,
he's hallucinating.
What was it? Crap. What was that show with the giant submarine? United Earth
Sequest.
Oceans.
Sequest.
Sequest. There you go. Yeah. The Sequest captain had the little holographic sounding board.
That's
Remember that?
I would go that
Yeah,
way.
they dropped that fast.
They did. But I remember it. Haha.
It was in the pilot, and it was in a couple episodes, and
Yep.
then they sort of never mentioned it again.
So
True. Yeah.
I think
he could have that as a Janeway.
You could, yeah.
I think I might structure it where each season is mostly self-contained, just for the sake of production standpoint. So there's an arc that kind of comes over the season, and then usually something at the end of the season they've got to overcome, and then the next season is them kind of moving into a new region, and maybe you kind of bring some things back every once in a while, but for the most part each one. And then you can do, like, for each season, then you kind of slowly modify, like Voyager, and so you're not like constantly having to reinvent like the model and whatnot, that you can kind of slowly, because I mean, obviously, especially Trek back then kind of relied heavily on being able to reuse shots. So you didn't have to keep reshooting like Voyager flying past, which you would have to do with if you keep modifying it. So breaking it down by season
that would be
would
much
kind of
easier
help that.
today.
Yeah.
Cheaper.
It'd also be easier to follow along with. So,
Yeah.
like, you wouldn't be like, you miss an episode and all of a sudden, why does Voyager have 4 nacelles?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that I would
But,
totally go
I think people are more accepting of serialized television today.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones and all of those TV shows that are, it's not back to the status quo at the end of the episode.
Well, I mean, it used to be that networks were much worse about putting episodes in order. I mean, look how much
And
trouble Firefly had, because I mean, all of their episodes were out of order.
Yep.
It's also the fact that on broadcast, I mean, they would show the episode. You might be busy that week, so you might not catch it. So it's basically the streaming.
And there was
format.
no way to watch it.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
on streaming
DVR didn't
formats,
exist.
serialization-
This is back in the day, kids.
All we had was
This is when
VCR.
all the phones
like,
had cords.
Seventh season of Voyager, I sort of lost interest, and I missed quite a few episodes, and there was no way to rewatch it until they came out on DVD, and that's when I finally saw those episodes.
VHS for me. Haha, I'm old. Haha.
I got I was in.
I didn't buy them
I
when
got
they were on
DVDs,
VHS.
but
I waited till they're on DVD.
But yeah, I mean, for me in the TNG, actually TNG and DS9, most of those episodes. I mean, I was a kid when those were coming out, so I caught a few of them. I was really into it.
There were a
But
bunch
where-
of reruns on for TNG, and so I was able to catch up because I only started watching that in like the last season. But I
Yeah,
was able to catch up really fast.
But for me, most of Star Trek was my experience with the VHSs I owned. So as a kid growing up, most of the Star Trek watching I did was actually of the 6 movies for TOS. And it was only later when I was able to go to the local library and get DVD sets, I was able to watch the entire series of TNG, DS9, and Voyager, because I had only picked up bits and pieces before, and then what I could get out of the Star Trek Encyclopedia. It was only until Enterprise that I started watching that much more religiously. I was able to just follow the entire track of the series.
Yeah, I'm so much of a nerd. I actually had a finale viewing party for TNG.
Ooh. That was a good one.
That was a good ending.
It was an ending.
I
didn't
think
like it
it's
so much.
I liked it better
It's
in
actually
retrospect
not an
compared. Yeah, I liked it compared to. I wasn't a huge fan of the way DS9 ended.
It was
worked.
fine. I don't know that it was
It
going
was
to
fine.
be any better.
Voyager-
It just had a lot to do.
I didn't like the Prophets storylines, but
Yeah,
that's just my
I
personal
mean,
preference.
because that kind of got a little bit like I don't quite know how to reconcile this, like against the whole like theme of the series. It kind of felt a little out of place.
Oh, it felt completely out of place. That series went from a science-based sci-fi show to Space Jesus Saves Us All, and I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
This
And
goes
then-
back to why I don't like God Aliens as a
Yeah,
plot device.
and then Voyager basically kind of undermined itself a little bit, and just sort of like finding the cheap way out to get it to fit under 7 seasons.
Yeah,
more
that
time
definitely
travel.
seemed like, oh my gosh, we're ending. And they did this magic. They're home. Thanks, Barkley.
Yeah, so they kind of it's just like that last episode didn't really fit within the arc because that was kind of the point. And then Enterprise kind of took that to an even greater extreme where it's like, hey, we're ended.
They should have done some kind of multi-episode arc that ended with them getting home.
Yeah, in
in
that
that 7th season.
Yeah, in a natural way that actually sort of made sense for the timeline rather than just saying, hey, we time traveled it. It's like
They
why
threw in
didn't
a bunch of plot elements that should have taken a lot more time to germinate, like the 7 Chakotay relationship.
Yeah, and then it
Oh
was
wow, that was
basically
fast.
That was.
Yeah, and he just came down to Janeway's decision, like, this was a good place to get him home. It was this situation where they could have found a way versus, previous 7 seasons where they kind of came into similar situations too.
I don't.
I mean, you always knew
personally
that
would
the
have
last
loved it
episode
if
was
they had never
Get
made it home.
Yeah, I mean, that could have actually they had like something that just said that, hey, they continue the voyages and they maybe get like a little temporal glimmer that, hey, they get home eventually. And then they have to sort of resolve, like, it'll take another 14 years. And then the end is basically them just continuing the journey. So they get a little bit of reassurance that they
I kind
will
of feel like
make
that
it.
would have been a little unsatisfying.
Oh no! You know what would have been satisfying? It's because Captain Kim would be commanding it when they actually got home.
Oh,
Yes.
That would have been cool.
Yes.
So you take the last 10 minutes of the finale episode, you do a time skip, and then you say 50 years later, and then it's Captain Kim as a really old man.
Well, in fairness,
finally
they
getting home.
did shave off some time throughout the series. I mean,
yeah.
in fact, if you look at like the Star Trek star
They
charts,
did
it kind of
some
maps
big
out the route of Voyager, and you just kind of see these jumps at different places where they like found quantum slipstream drive or used aboard transfer condor or found a wormhole or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are those points where they kind of leap forward.
Yeah, so I think what they could have done is that they could have incorporated elements of the timeline they set up in Endgame. But basically, it's them finding this temporal artifact that's showing them that future, that they get home. And it explores a few of those character ideas. And then the episode is just them, like the finale is just kind of them continuing on. So I guess that's something that they could have done, or they could have just, made an actual mechanic for them to get home in that time.
So it's funny.
I think there was one thing that they could have done that would have made the episode they did do much more interesting. Make the person who travels back in time, make it Miral Paris instead of Admiral Gemini.
That would have been very interesting.
I think that would have been much more interesting.
That would have been interesting.
Also, actually, one other thing too is actually end the episode with them meeting people in person rather than just flying towards Earth.
a lot of fans that I have seen post really want to know what happened after they got home, and really wanted those.
That's
scenes.
usually the biggest complaint I see is that they wanted to see the reception. Back at
Chakotay and Torres are going to jail. They're going to jail.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I don't think anybody cares. The Maquis is not a thing anymore.
Yeah, they're all dead. Yeah, they're all dead. But they're still going to jail because, reasons.
They actually did commit crimes, probably. So.
Yeah. There's just like one of those things. At what point does it not even matter if you bother to punish them? It's not going to serve a purpose.
Them or something.
Oh yeah.
And the crew from the Equinox, so like 4 or 5 people from the Equinox, they're super going to jail. I mean, they're just jail bound. I mean, you better like the look of bars, buddy, because you're gonna be looking at them for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Federation doesn't necessarily like when you start using sentient beings as fuel.
Yeah, they take a hard line on that one.
Although I still really want to see a post-TNG show, because I do really, really like STO's time, because there are a lot of interesting elements that sort of were developing through Nemesis and just like after DS9 with how things might be developing for the Federation, that Enterprise just kind of glossed over. It's like, oh, temporal stuff happens. Like, no, there's still lots of really interesting faction things. I'm just so glad that we have STO to explore those.
Did you read about Brian Fuller's anthology idea?
Oh,
what he originally wanted Discovery to be?
I've heard tell of it. I haven't read it in detail.
Basically, what he wanted was he wanted to do an anthology where it started out at Discovery's time, and then each season would skip forward in time. So it would skip to the Excelsior's time, and then it might skip to the Enterprise C's time, and it might skip forward. And by the end of it, you would end up post Nemesis.
Yeah, I would have really liked that. I mean, just as a way of varying things up and really kind of celebrating the whole series.
I will acknowledge it would have been hard to pull off well.
It could have been all right, but I like to spend time with characters.
Yeah, because that's the one thing you'd be giving up is unless you really have a character that would survive that whole time. So you basically have an Allurian or an android character to unite the series.
And when I first heard they were doing a new Star Trek series, was really hoping what they would do is have a post TNG series on television, and then on like on CBS's streaming service, have a complementary series like Star Trek Klingon. And it actually has a parallel timeline of a Klingon crew who is constantly, coming up against this other ship. So you constantly see that back and forth.
What I kind of thought about, like, as just sort of like when I started playing SDO, just sort of thinking about like how I would like make a series out of this. I would actually do a Romulan ship instead of a
that's
Klingon.
really unexplored. That'd be great.
I would do a series based on the Romulans. So almost kind of like in what Star Trek Online ultimately did. So because I think you can do a lot of interesting things with that, because that's one of the things that it's just talked about so consistently with what's going on in the Romulans between Nemesis and Star Trek 2009, that you have a lot of great room for growth, and it's also part of a galaxy that we don't really know that much about because we've just been excluded from it. We know that the Romulans dealt with like a couple of species, the Flaxians.
We have a big event of the destruction of Romulus that can be used as an inciting event in a TV show like that, and you center the plot around that and how characters deal with that.
Yeah, and I think it would also make a powerful message where you have a setup where you have a character who has like no inbuilt right to follow along with the Prime Directive or anything like that, but ultimately still does. I think that's where I'm sort of like a little worn out with a Star Trek crew, like a Star Trek show based around a Starfleet vessel, is because you're almost it's sort of just following along with the expectation that there's a certain way they behave and it means something for humanity. I think if you do a series based on someone else in the Star Trek universe, that sort of doesn't necessarily have to follow along with the same traditions, but they still do. I think that sort of you get a little bit more or a lot more impact potentially.
I think it would be extremely hard to do.
That's a dumb idea.
I think it would be extremely hard to do a series not focused on a human for anyone outside of like the hardest core of fans.
Oh, you could still do humans, because I was thinking like a Romulan, sort of almost like a Firefly type crew, where it's a little bit more hodgepodge. So you have human characters who are kind of like mercenaries or traders, or just people not affiliated with unless you want to go into sort of skullduggery of people who aren't Starfleet. You could have double agents on, like it basically Starfleet people undercover on that. But you could that's the thing, is that I think you could still do it if you involved human characters. You would still have Romulans. It just wouldn't be like the classic idea of that you have an Imperial Romulan ship. So Romulans as presented are kind of out, but like moving the faction along to be much more multicultural, that I think you could do.
So here's how I would get around that and this is the idea that I had all along, is you create one show, and it's like your flagship show. It's the one that's the most accessible and the most like previous Treks, like TNG style, TOS style. And it's very traditional. It's, the Starfleet ship. And that's your flagship show. It's on, and I'd put it on a broadcast network. And then you create other companion shows as soon as that's successful. Hopefully that's successful. And use those to branch out a little bit more, to do something that's more unusual. Like, my idea of, a show about ancient Klingons, which is more like, fantasy based than sci-fi based. Yeah. And, maybe you do a show about Romulans. Maybe you do a Starfleet crime procedural, or something like that. It's kind of a little bit like the Marvel TV model, where you have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is on broadcast TV, and then you have these other shows that are a little bit more different. They're a little bit maybe less accessible to the general TV audience, but they're doing good stuff in their own right.
You could also maybe approach it sort of like branch out in the movies too, where you have the show following along with the standard model, but then you try to create a Star Trek movie which sort of branches out a little bit more. Because I think like a movie based on a Starfleet crew is, it's something where I think there's maybe a little bit more latitude to branch out, because then you could, do something more, a little bit more, say, Guardians of the Galaxy type with someone who's not involved with Starfleet. I think there might be a little bit more latitude in just a one-off movie to do a different plot line than a long-running TV show. So, I mean, that might be another way too of just like getting more diversity, of just having movies that aren't necessarily tied to the ongoing series and characters. And then, I mean, the movie franchise doing its own thing, but not necessarily to the same extent as the current JJ verse. So these are the movies inhabit the same, like the exact same space, maybe same time frame, but aren't necessarily dealing with the same ship and characters.
Well, unfortunately, they don't ask us before they do these things.
But we could do that type of thing
is
at the Foundry.
We can't do
that's-
these things
yeah.
at the Foundry.
Like
sure.
I've done with Starfleet, because that's kind of what I would want, like just out of a Starfleet show, of just like, it's not about a ship, it's about a different faction, like a different group within Starfleet, and then doesn't follow along with a ship and just has different conventions.
Well, we are getting to the end of our time limit here for today. So, Dragoon, if you want to put up our contact info.
All right. We can be reached by email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We are also on Twitter at foundryroundtab. Dragon can be reached at Dragon1701. Duncan can be reached at Gorgonops_SSF. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman. And I, of course, can be reached at Greendragoon. And you guys?
How's a good way to reach you?
You can find Legion of Myth on the internet. You can look at our YouTube videos, our daily Twitch streams. Just look up Legion of Myth in Twitch or YouTube. Or also on Facebook. You can contact us at Legion of Myth, believe it or not, kids.
And go ahead and stay tuned, because in about a half hour, we're going to be starting our stream. And you will find the third and final code word to win the prizes of our STO giveaway.
And before we leave, we want to thank the Foundry Roundtable for this opportunity. As huge fans, Heathendog and I, as we are huge fans of the Foundry universe that you guys have created, we very much appreciate this chance to talk with you. We are fanboys of your work, and we hope you continue up doing it what you do.
Yep. And we are definitely fans of people who play Foundry missions.
We are fans of yours. So.
Sweet.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.